Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 255 with Mark Fagin, Russian opposition politician, and Alexey Arestovich, Lieutenant Colonel, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine. Today they talk about the situation on the front, about the fact that Russia only mobilized less than 300,000, out of which they had enough equipment only for about 65,000 to bring to the front. Anger, denial, bargaining. Iran confirmed that they supplied drones to Russia. They also discuss Starlink terminals and why some of them are going dark. A Canadian with Ukrainian roots can become a next NATO General Secretary. Also, why HIMARS are so elusive. Russians failed to destroy a single one of them. That and peculiarities of European-Chinese relations on the verge of Big 20 summit, as well as the third revolt of the mobilized troops in Kazan. Enjoy! Dear friends, glad to see you all in Fagin Live. It is Saturday, November 5th. Time is 10 p.m. in Kyiv and 11 is in Moscow. I greet all the viewers that decided to join us today. It's day 255 with Alexey Arestovich. Good evening. How are you doing there? Good evening. I'm doing well. Alright, so let's start with our usual program. Remind everybody to subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexey Arestovich channel, and if you are listening or watching that in English, please subscribe to that on the Privateer Station. And do not forget to subscribe to Alexey's channel. He needs a little more. Alright, let's bring the map up. Tell us if anything happened. Nothing really, Mark. Okay, nothing. Tell us about nothing. Oh Lord, give me powers. Attention. So, on Svatov direction, Ukraine controls R66, also sometimes mentioned as P66. This is the road from Svatova down to Kryminaya. On this map, it is following along the red line of the Russian front. The enemy tried to push us further out and failed to do that. Also, they attempted to attack Solidar. Again, that didn't work. Kryminaya, they made several attempts on that side of the front at the bottom of this map, also failed. Same, Avdiivka had no success, Mariinka had no success. So, they're really mobilized. Well, they're trying, it's a mix of different troops, and they're really trying, they're making a big effort, but totally failing. Pavlovka-Ugledar was another direction. They were hopeful, and not just failed there, but actually suffered very serious losses and fell back. That's the usual story on that front. For a couple of days they are advancing giddily on a new location and promising and posting everywhere that now we're taking over that front. But then our artillery comes and puts everything in their place. And some of them lie in their place on the field, others run back to their trenches. So Kherson, same situation, we're booming, they're dying. So the line of front didn't really change. There were minor changes on the tactical level, 200 yards one way, 500 yards another way. Alright, so today it's November 5th. Somewhere, perhaps in 3 weeks, maybe in 2, we're actually already for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, mobilized troops are already present on the front. Oh yeah, they've been here for a while, and I got some exact numbers today. The actual numbers of mobilized was not 300,000, it was 238,000. And they could not proceed with further recruitment because their conscription spots were at capacity, since they ran mobilization effort in parallel with usual autumn draft, and they just out of their depth. They don't have enough food, enough water, enough ammo, enough equipment. So the general problem, they're failing with capacity. So they're not able to get to that hidden million as they discussed. They never will be, the current capacity, and the only way they can get to that million if everybody whom they conscribe now dies. They go pick all the clothes, all the guns, all the ammo, get another 300,000, dress them, equip them, send them. When they die, they take it again and put it on the next 300,000. Out of all these people that were mobilized, let me check the exact number. I had it written out somewhere. Exact number. Get here. Okay. So out of these 238,000, only 43% in one capacity or another started preparation and training. The rest are just sitting on different bases, schools and other facilities, drinking and eating and revolting. There was one pretty big revolt in Kazan that some of the videos spilled out to the webs. In Ukraine, there are several data sets. Average number is about 60,000, 60 to 65,000. Some sources say almost 100K, others say closer to 80. I'm staying careful, saying it's about 65. So you mean 65 on the front line? No, in general, including Belarus, including Russian districts attached to on the border with Ukraine. So out of 65,000, there is also an estimation that there are 85,000 on the whole front. This data is different because we don't know, and statisticians are not exactly sure who needs to be added to mobilized, where to put inmates who were conscribed and thrown to the front, or also the usual draft who served for a couple of years and then they were forced to sign a contract at the end. There are not too many of them, but they exist. So careful numbers, 50,000, more on a higher, towards the higher end would be 85 on the theater. We have 208,000 watching us, about 44,000 click the like button. Again, probably switching to winter time makes a little more difficult for viewers from Russia to join us, so we definitely see the downtick of viewers from that area. But we do ask you to please send links, remind your friends and acquaintances to come and join us. Those people who watch us from Russia, I know we do, I know you exist. Please share that stream using messengers and other means. That helps us. Okay, we've been for 7 minutes live. Let's continue. So that's the general situation on the front, right? Next question. Iran made a statement that they actually did supply drones. Before that, they refuted all allegations. Now they're saying that we have not been supplying anything since after the war started, but they supplied drones several months before February. I commented that on a few other channels already today, but why do you think that way? Why do you think they're bringing it up this way? Why they started to acknowledge that they actually supplied? Mark, this is not a game. This is anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance. This is the third phase of it. Well, tell us, you're a specialist in this, right? Okay, look. The sum of all proof that we aggregated, Israel, in the face of their spokesperson, United States and other intel services in the world reported to their bosses, and also some of them even made statements out to the public, that Iran indeed supplies drones to Russian army. We do have Iranian drones flying over our cities. They are falling on civilian targets. They are destroying some of the civilian targets. They're being shot down, and of course we have a lot of pieces and remnants of that equipment. It is impossible to keep refuting that further. So that bold attempt that Iran made a statement earlier, let's make a bilateral commission, and nobody wants to go do any research like that. Iran was just shown the proof. and they were pushed in a corner that they actually had to confirm. And Iran formally is a neutral country, so in essence, they destroyed the principle of their neutrality. For example, Switzerland is not supplying ammo to Jeopards because they are staying on the neutrality principle, and it's painful for us, but they are saying that no, we cannot supply arms to an active participant of the conflict. Iran, indifferent to Switzerland, actually is supplying weapons to an active participant of the conflict. So Iran is now an active participant of this conflict here. And by the way, they do have their specialists here in Ukraine. We already killed some of them, but yeah, so there's nothing left for the principle of neutrality. But formally, for a while, they tried to live under an umbrella that we do not exist there, and we're not participating, and we're even eager to do the international commission. And now there likely will be consequences, measures, sanctions, whatever else. Inventive mind of the West will figure it out. And Iranian nuclear agreement may turn sideways, and different allies, different countries who were trying perhaps to buy oil and gas from Iran, explaining that Iran is not too bad, they're losing their positions again. Same story as with Putin. He had people who wanted to side with him and who wanted to support him, but with his current actions, sequentially, all the stuff that Russia is doing in Ukraine, he is debasing his own supporters. So there are very, very few people who are left who can afford to speak from the tribune that Putin is a good guy. And same thing with Iranian people, their representatives. You can write 3 times on the Iranian drone that it is Russian geranium or whatever, but it is Iranian stuff. It's Iranian tech. So now they're making circles, zigging and zagging out of it, and then they probably would make something. We did not allow Russia to use these weapons on the territory of Ukraine. Russia decided to do it on their own. We're still researching the circumstances. We gave them some drones for copying, maybe. I think they can fall back to that to fight international terrorism in Syria. And so nobody knew that they'll use them in Ukraine. So I'm not guilty, they came here themselves. So is that in the context that Israel, Saudi Arabia, United States starting to threaten Iran? And their context is, what did Russia give you back in exchange for these drones? Was it some improvement to your nuclear program? Even CNN and other media are talking today about that. Oh, further than many other diplomats, there was one person in our government who made a statement way more extreme than any of these media sources. It was Michael Podolyak. He actually came out and said that, how about we strike that Iranian manufacturing facility? So he started to afford himself things that even Arestovich doesn't afford himself to say much longer. So now I need to outdo him on this. I can't even improvise. I'll need to think about it before I can say something more terrible than he did. Mikhail, I need to point your attention to that. How could you mention the strike on Iran, that it is an interest of all allies involved on our side? And he made another statement where actually he's pretty right. When he was asked about negotiations with Russia, he said, you know, the best negotiations with Russia, the best strategy is when our troops reach the border of 1991, and after that we use HIMARS and other artillery of a caliber of 150 plus. That'll support our negotiations after. So I don't know if that's astrology and planets aligning together or something, or Michael finally filling his shoes. So I think these processes are probably coming and going, so I'm expecting the next wave to hit me soon. And, I'm trying to be objective, trying not to offend people without special need, trying to portray us as a unity, working on different civilized directions. And then Michael comes out and makes a statement in my style about a year and a half ago. Okay, so now we can quote him and say that he is calling to hit Iranian factories. By the way, I have to mention that in Iran there is a revolt brewing. They already had 20 plus kids shot at the demonstrations, and it is a cannibalistic regime. It's trying to destroy about a third. I think it's a third revolt that they're trying to suppress, but they're failing at that. And perhaps there is a chance for a democratic revolution to happen in Iran, and maybe Ayatollah's regime will be gone. I do hope. Okay, same about 200,000 watching us. We're live for about 14 minutes. Here's another news about 1.4 thousand terminals of Starlink were turned off for the lack of financing. Some of the media sources and CNN stated. According to Elon Musk and other data, Ukraine has about 25,000 terminals in Ukraine and 1.3 thousand turned off. Mark, when things like that happen, my phone usually just explodes. All friends and others are telling me that something needs to be done. I'll tell you an example, a story. I'm walking near my house. Some lady walking a dog comes to me and says, Alexey, I have a problem that only the office of the president can address. I perk my ears and say, okay, it is our holy duty to resolve your issues. And she tells me that my brother has a fungus on his toenails. Wait, I think you told us about that. Oh, I have to remind you about it. In light of Starlink. And she's saying you and the office of the president need to do everything possible and defeat that fungus. You remember, I told her that there is several layers of medical service in the army, and on the battalion they actually have a full medical set. So why am I bringing that? That is about some fungal issue. Imagine what would happen if Starlink was turned off en masse. My phone would probably just commit suicide right there. Perhaps in a parallel universe there were some disconnections, and although I can allow that this is the only problem that I was not told about, and in fact it was turned off somewhere, but just FYI, I usually know that some soldier has his spoon bent somewhere in Kherson, or some citizens, some farmers sending messages that the cow is not milking well. I can only imagine what would happen if that was a real problem with Starlink disconnects. So I'm very skeptical about that news. I don't know, maybe indeed they turned it off, but frankly, I'd say, thank God something flew past me, because my average 70 messages per minute for the last 9 months, they usually cover everything in Ukraine. Chicken are not laying eggs, there's no milk in cows. We invented new UAV, and the office of the president is refusing to drop everything and send that UAV all the way to Vladivostok. Ways to destroy Russia in 3 days, I'm getting probably 15 times a minute. Everybody knows how to defeat Putin, and you idiots are just not too bright enough. You need to listen to me. I can only imagine what would happen if indeed 1.3 thousand got turned off. It's like 120 every 20th of Starlinks. I do get questions to help obtain Starlink, to get Starlink, but I have not heard about disconnects yet. Actually, imagine, I know in which battalion, which trophy mortar sites were off, and whatever was shipped, and when it was shipped, and why is it not fitting. So hang on, let me ask some of my channels, see maybe something got turned off. I'm provoking them right now to see if maybe somebody can text me back and say, indeed, we turned something off. But so far, I'm not seeing any. Usually I see them right away. Usually somebody starts texting, you're lying again, Alexey, making the reality brighter, you're prevaricating. In reality, Starlink is turned off. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I do not have messages like that. All right, let's wait till that topic gets development. United States sees as the next NATO General Secretary, Vice Prime from Canada, and Stoltenberg's position time frame runs out next year. So on Prague summit and Vilnius also will happen in July. So that'll be under Stoltenberg. And over there, they'll be probably making more serious decisions about Ukraine. So regarding Christy Freeland, she will probably be partaking in the Vilnius assembly, right? Yeah, it's, I don't know, but it's nice to have the head of NATO as an ethnic Ukrainian, a Canadian with Ukrainian roots. So you think that may be influenced, she may be influenced? I think that's always a factor, I mean, to a degree, but of course we can come and approach and ask her in our proper Ukrainian to support our troops, but again, she'll probably do what she can. And perhaps they can give us more. Instead of 50 tons, they might give us 65 tons of something, and that'll increase our capacity. Oh, by the way, I am getting messages about Starlink. They are writing that some of them were turned off because... Okay, no, I cannot read that. Why? Oh, yes, okay, so part of them were turned off. Indeed. See? That happened. I did provoke them, and people give me answers. Is it for money or for other reasons? No, there is another system, another principle. I cannot call that to avoid leaking some data. It's not related to money. They were turned off, but for other reasons. And rightly so. Now only the correct Starlinks are working, and incorrect Starlinks are not working. Incorrect Starlinks? You mean what? Pirated Starlinks? Well, interesting. One of the main features of Ukrainian nation is very high creativity, for which we adore ourselves and advise everybody else to be creative. Okay, interesting. According to some high-level ranking US military source, Moscow failed to detect and destroy a single HIMARS unit on the front. Mark, I actually love to be in that position. When you read about Ukraine and every second or third message mentions a high-ranking unnamed official, that's me. Just see my face in that case. They don't just understand that I often laugh and say a lot of funny things. So, in essence, if it is a serious statement, that would be Podolyak. If it is a serious government statement, that would be Michael Podolyak. And if it's something funny, that would be me. So we are those two high-ranking officials. Sometimes it's Sergei Leshchenko as well, when we really, really have to. But yeah, I think there are three of us, for example, in Ukraine, who are acting as a high-ranking, unnamed source in the government. I think in America they might have a similar situation. So it's curious, though. We've been accused in different things in the last 9 months. We've been accused about saying wrong things. Who? In 9 months? Find one wrong statement. Oh, people will bring 2 or 3 weeks. No. 2 or 3 weeks, that's not a news. That's not data. That's a prognosis. That's an opinion. What about the actual fact? So that we factually said something wrong? Go ahead, find something that was factually wrong. So, unlike us, Konashenko keeps saying in Russia, their speaker for defense ministry is saying that they keep destroying HIMARS here and there, 1, 2, 5. Well, he is making a formal lie statement. He's lying. He's lying to the mic. Find a similar lie in our stream. You will fail. See, he is causing a certain emotional appeal in his audience. Right, Mark, we're also causing a certain emotional appeal. We got a ton of our audience that are pretty hateful, by the way. I don't know why they're watching us, but there's a big group that are enjoying throwing hate our way. But I do love them too. I do work for you too. Haters are a shadow posse. Mark, we have a good posse, so. Okay. Well, let's go back to the topic of HIMARS. Are they so invincible? Are they so invincible because they shoot that far? That is difficult to shoot them back. Why they failed in destroying a single one of them? Okay, Mark, 1991. Remember? So Americans were conducting an operation against Saddam Hussein for his invasion into Kuwait, and evil Hussein, using the Scud rockets, an export version of Elbrus, and he's threatening Israel with these missiles. America supplied Patriot systems to shoot them down. Similar story to what is happening in Ukrainian skies now. But the best special forces of United States, Britain, other allies, they're conducting a search over a relatively small area where the Iraq is shooting their missiles from. And they have aviation, they have mobile units, and it's basically a big steppe, a big desert. And these are machines, they're pretty big size, they're 8-wheelers. It's hard to hide them. Do you know how many of them did they find? I don't remember the exact number, but it approaches 0 very fast. Probably like 5 or something like that. So that hunt was very unsuccessful. And that was in an open steppe where you can see things for miles. And now imagine searching for them in Ukraine. Forests, ravines, other structures, capital structures for water purification, some factories, some buildings. That's almost an unsolvable question. Also, keep in mind that Russia practically doesn't have any troops that can leave the front line and go deep. And they can maybe do that with special forces, but special forces of Russian military, they almost never go across the border because they just suffer tremendous losses on this front because they're unusable on the front in Ukraine. Usually, in time and time again, every time they cross the border, it turns out to be one-way trip for them. And after trying it for a few times, they failed and they decided not to use it. Russian UAVs, well, good luck. They maybe go for 20 miles, and HIMARS can reach way further. Plus, HIMARS is a wheel-based and very precise targeting system. It came to a position, made a shot, and left. Even if you detected the position where he shot from, good luck trying to trace where did he go from there. And then you need a whole system to track it. For one HIMARS to shoot, there are basically 600 people supporting them. False position, false operation to distract possible enemy. There is a whole set of layers how we protect them, and it's very difficult to catch them. That's why they aren't. Well, they're still hopeful that maybe they can dwindle the amount of HIMARS by this, and that. Well, when they succeed in dwindling it at least by 1, we'll talk. For now, we're just got so bold that we're actually using them during the daytime. First months, we only used them at night. Now we understood that there's really not too much to be afraid of, and we're using them in the daytime as well, which is very peculiar, and I'm still somewhat against of using them at night, but using them in the daytime, but the army decides it's okay. So 326,000 are watching us. About a third click the like button. I still remind that please continue doing that. Continue sharing links to that stream in your social media and the other places where you discuss news. So, following meeting with Scholz and Xi Jinping, Chinese leader made a statement that It is unacceptable to use nuclear weapons, and even for blackmail, and that message was targeting Russia. Their Xinhua agency reported that. And the dynamic is negative for Moscow, especially on the verge of that G20 summit, where they'll be meeting and discussing all that. In your opinion, what are we approaching with this? Do you think China may agree with the United States, come to some understanding with USA about the destiny of Moscow, and that may speed up the demise of that story? Now again, let's go back to the nukes. Since I have to talk about the situation on the front daily, I might as well talk about the nukes. Again, since they started attacking our infrastructure, including Iranian drones and their missiles, it means that they refused from using nukes in this situation because there was a fork on the road. It was either or. It doesn't work to use both strategies together. They're very differently oriented strategies. Nuclear weapon is a high escalation, and infrastructure destruction is a lengthy process. They're trying to freeze Ukraine, trying to prolong that war, prolong that conflict, and perhaps talk to G20 and China and other countries, and partly maybe expecting for any political changes in the United States that may affect the amount of help this country is getting. Also, over that, when they included a mobilization decision, the probability of use of a tactical nuke dwindled as well, because that's a whole other scenario. So it exists, that ghostly probability exists. Blinken and Stoltenberg mentioned that they're seriously reviewing nuclear war capability or percentage of happening, but the percent is very low. It's just a theorist threat, so it needs to be reviewed seriously. So if any of those who are listening to us could think that the war with the West is not an argument and Putin is ready to face nuclear ashes, trust me, the threat from China and India, who made their mind on Shanghai group meeting, they said that no nukes. They basically made their statement. They picked the side. Remember the story I said, forget it, about the guy who could speak different languages? So that guy was by the way, a pure-blood Brit who spoke Russian and Ukrainian and others. So yeah, Vladimir, forget about it. The threat of nuclear weapon is down there somewhere. Yeah, the threat of using nukes, where are you? Come from under the table. There's probably 0.5% somewhere. And today again, they were reminded that such a statement that Scholz and China made, this is a statement made by the main core country of European Union, and a similar statement from China. They're in alignment. They're calculating joint scenarios, and these scenarios go out of the window if nuclear weapons are going to be used. And civilized people don't really appreciate when their scenarios go out of the window, especially Chinese, especially the country that has about 100 times stronger army than Russia, the country that has nukes of their own. And China is the last hope of Putin. Where else do you think he'll be able to sell any of his energy resources to? Yep, India broke the contract. By the way, Brits are even worse than Podolak. That guy allows for statements of the level that I was always punished for, and I stopped making them because I became a responsible person. I think it's a disease, and maybe he caught the bug. Now I'm responsible, and he's making irresponsible ones, but okay. Brits also probably got that. They made a horrible statement. They said, we're not going to transport your oil, and also will not insure your oil, and no tankers transporting your oil. So if nobody insures tankers, they won't be going. And there might be some third parties trying to insure them, but they'll fall under secondary sanctions. Now, India breaking ties with Russia on energy supplies, China is saying no nukes. That's an interesting development. That's definite change of rhetoric. and it's a public change that was made as a separate topic for European-Russian relations. And that decision presumes very serious consequences for Russia if they decide to escalate this way. And not just from Europe, but also from China. The China that makes Putin pee the carpet every time when China is upset about something. It's like a little pet dog versus tiger. Yeah, China, if China decides to come in and figure out who and why use nukes, that'll be a very serious case for Putin. We actually have a case of Russian-China relations. Remember self-defense organization that the troops were sent to Kazakhstan to pacify people there? What happened there? So apparently China didn't even stomp the foot. They just expressed concern. And at the end of it, as a result, all the troops were withdrawn immediately. Now Kazakhstan actually, after all the meetings recently, they paused their participation in that self-defense organization made by Moscow. And why are they so bold? Well, of course they're smart and they have good leader, but it would not have happened unless they have a very strong party backing them. Let's imagine, what's the name of that force? What could be backing them? I don't know, some force, right, Mark? Some unnamed force to the east of them that allows Kazakhstan to call things what they are. When he was visiting Russia, remember, he said, you can call it whatever you want, but we're calling this war in Ukraine. This is a very important statement, and it may upset some of the Ukrainians. You know, we do have a lot of, we have a strong meme culture, and there was a question about orgy and shikavitsa. I was asked that in a couple interviews. I was concerned I'm out of loop. So what Chinese and Germans did, they basically canceled this orgy. There was a meme going around in lieu of nuclear war. So these are negotiations happening behind the back. Now this orgy is canceled. Don't worry, dear viewers. Those who wanted to go for the orgy, I need to, especially I was part of that group, I will make that orgy on Shikavitsa for a different reason. It will happen. Okay, they keep accusing us of being too vulgar, but oh, you know, Mark, what is Ukrainian orgy on Shikavitsa? There'll probably be a lecture on philosophy, 1, 2, or 3 of them. They'll probably sing several national songs. There'll be a contest of our national dress, a contest of child's drawings, contest for the best UAV, and perhaps a cooking contest, cooking competition. At the end, everybody will hug, kiss, drink, and then walk somewhere, because we usually need to walk somewhere at the end. And that's it. And if it is announced as an orgy, it definitely is not going to happen there. That's usual Ukrainian model. If you read there's going to be an orgy there, there'll be everything there. Then there's going to be everything else but not orgy. Now, if they announced a cooking competition, there could have been an orgy there. Or if there was a lecture, philosophic lecture announced, there could have been that orgy element happening. But when they just stating blatantly there's going to be an orgy, there's not going to be an orgy. That's yeah, that's our Ukrainian mode. So, orphoepically, Shikavitsa, does it have any relation to it? Maybe. You just make that sound, say that word. Okay, so here's another piece of news. Russian military resolved an issue with firewood for troops in Kazan. And in Kazan, apparently, the officials said that there was a problem with wet firewood in the training academy, and it's resolved. All the matters are settled. Mobilized who were protesting against the conditions of their life in the high tank academy. The second person in Tatarstan, Rustam Nigmatulin, visited the academy and mobilized, complained that they didn't have enough food, water, and firewood, that they got rusty machine guns from 1970s, and there was no laundry capability at the facility. And when officers tried to intervene, they were threatened with physical force, and they had to retreat until the situation was settled. This is the third revolt mark, by the way. Yeah, this looks like their version of an orgy. The funniest thing is that this is the alma mater of their head of command, Gerasimov. Yeah, he's a graduate of Kazan Tank Academy. So this is an orgy in his alma mater. And probably it was on their training grounds. That's looking at the pictures, I think. They were kept in the field, in the training fields. So, wait, why are they being kept in the field? Because there's no sleeping room in the quarters. The training, those who are studying in the academy, they're living there. They don't have enough space to host those new people mobilized. So that's an example for you. When I was serving, starting my military career, we get to the training grounds, and it was the end of February, beginning of March. All the roads are slush. We've been training, shooting. We basically get to tents, and we were sleeping in the tents. It was sub-freezing temperature, cold ground, some hay, and then some very wet mattresses on top. And of course, the guy on duty fell asleep, and the proper furnace burnt the ceiling of the tent. But we were so tired that nobody even woke up. But the horrible moment happened when one of us decided to get up and go take a leak. Now, the thing, imagine, when people are sleeping in a tent, it's a tight arrangement, so basically you don't have free space. You just sleep really tight and you kind of warm each other as well. And when one person is turning to one side, the whole thing goes like dominoes. Everybody turns to that other side as well. So that idiot decided to get up and take a leak, and he was not too far from me. And he basically woke everybody up. So I wake up, open my eyes, and I look up and I see beautiful snow falling slowly on me. And I can see the tracing shots flying in the skies and lighting up these snowflakes. And I understand here that something happened that for which we signed a ton of documents and got proper training. That one of these things happened. There are usually two risks. It's either CO2 and the whole tent dies, or which is more rare, or the ceiling burns. And yeah, that's what happened. So after that happened, imagine for 3 days we were sleeping without the ceiling on the tent, basically. And there was a third year academy, so these are usually the boldest, because on the fourth year people start thinking about their future. So the third year is literally people who cause all the ruckus. So even with that, our command, it took them 2 or 3 days to agree to our suggestion that, hey, can we go and move that platoon to an observing position that has actually some roof over the head. So for 3 days, they were exchanging letters, messages, and finally, 2 days before we were supposed to leave that campground, they allowed us to go into one of these. So that's a normal situation, not in the military, not in the war environment. There was no active war. And now, yeah, in Russia, they mobilized last time when? 1941? So there are no skills. Well, they did mobilize a little for Afghanistan, but that was just a tiny bit compared to what they did now. So the more they'll be living out in the fields, the more tents will be burning, the more people will die because of CO2. Did you, by the way, see another piece of news where the 23-year-old came back from the army to his city and shot up the firework in the ceiling when he got upset with some cafe? Yeah, 15 people died. Yep, that one. So there'll be more coming, and there'll be more incidents, and there'll be more revolts. Let's go back to the beginning of our story, that catastrophic situation. Those people who are armed and who are thrown to the front line, they're at least being used, or at least are solving other issues. There'll be more revolts there too, but at least they're doing something. 57% are sitting just like these Kazan people. Nothing to do, nothing to eat, horrible conditions, subscale, a huge body of men, very angry and not busied with anything. And they're just rotting for days and weeks out in the fields. What happens in a month or two? Huge hatred to their bosses, to the administration. And all that veneer of civilization gets blown away, and people start to behave as the collective alligator. They just start snapping at everything. And given that they don't have a military background, they have not chosen this condition, this path to be their work, to be their job, to be their career. So more and more situation will be flaring up like that. And that partial mobilization will definitely be attacking Gerasimov's and Putin's authorities. And I do have one very good military expert among my friends. Nobody really knows him out in the media. Very professional, very well-versed, and very knowledgeable man. So he noticed one thing in his articles, that sooner or later, right now, who's guilty? Lapin, who's guilty? Surovikin, then perhaps will be other guilty people on the front. But the first ones who will figure out who is guilty, who is to blame, will be those 57% sitting in the campgrounds, rotting out there. They'll be the first ones to guess who is really guilty. Those people, remember when in the news there was like 26 of the mobilized left, 500 died after our shelling. So those 26 will figure it out. They will be the ones who figure out that Putin is the one to blame. And the focal point will start shifting, will start focusing on the main figure. That is unavoidable. The first would be the mobilized and the members of the families of those who got killed on the front, and there are no propaganda or media sources to change or channel that anger onto somebody else. So Putin announcing mobilization, he basically stepped on the path to his delegitimization, full, complete, and utter. And that's it. And all these revolts, today they kicked the butt of the head of the training battalion, and tomorrow they'll kick the butt of their president. Well, that's classic. That's how the classics wrote about it. We'll see what happens in reality, but yeah. We've been for 46 minutes live today. 360,000 watching us, about a third. Click the like button still. Please keep clicking. Please keep sharing links in your social media and other accounts. Especially those who are watching us from Russia, make sure more people in your country see that. That is important, and anything you do with YouTube, it does help us to get this stream in front of more people, wider audience. Do not forget to subscribe to Fagin Live. We're almost at 2 million. We're at 1,950,000. More people watch, more people get notes, more visibility. And of course, Alexey Aristovich's channel, do not forget to subscribe. Follow that link. Mark, nothing grows on my side. I'm good as I am, don't worry. Well, you know, just wait. It will. Mark, that topic doesn't really bother me specifically, but how are we doing tomorrow? We're skipping tomorrow? Yes, we're skipping. Sunday is traditional eating the Putin's babies. Okay, so we're meeting on Monday. Tomorrow I will have a separate stream with Gennady Gudkov on my channel, and we'll discuss preliminary results of the Deputies' Assembly in Poland. And yeah, don't miss that. Alexei, see you on Monday. Goodbye.